It's been a pretty solid year for films. We've had a few highly anticipated sequels, some new takes on old IPs, but many original ideas too, with some of them being classed as the best films of the year. Now, I made a video like this last year. I liked the layout there, so I'm going to do the same here. I'll skim through places 20 to 11 and then go down from 10 all the way to 1. Now keep in mind that I rate purely on enjoyment. It's why some films didn't make the top 10, and it's why Beavis and Butthead is next to Drive My Car. So take my ratings with a grain of salt, and if you can get through this, make sure to check out my Letterboxd at Angus_D. But anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into the movies. So, starting at 20, we have Elvis, 19 is Funny Pages, 18 is I Want You Back, 17 is Jerry and Marge Go Large, 16 is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, 15 is Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, 14 is Drive My Car, 13 is Triangle of Sadness, 12 is Knitram, and coming in at 11 is Mass. Now, I loved all of these films. There are many different reasons, but the main one is usually that it made me think, especially of those last few films. But that's enough wasting your time. You're here for the top 10. And in 10th place, I have Nope. I truly loved this film, which isn't too much of a surprise. Jordan Peele is an incredible filmmaker, and whilst Get Out was amazing, I was a fan of Us, Nope just felt completely different. The story was incredibly strong and not only appealed to the masses, but also the pretentious film bro. The casting was superb, and the cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema is some of the best of the year, which I have a video on linked in the top right corner and description below. I'm glad that Jordan Peele has found his niche in the horror genre, and I can't wait to see what he comes out with next. And whatever it is, I'm hopeful that it's still in collaboration with Hoytema. The most recent addition to this list for me was Luca Guadagnino's Bones and All. Now, if you've seen my Letterboxd, you'll know that Call Me By Your Name is one of my favourite films of all time. I've seen it over 30 times, and I still find something new in every watch. So it wasn't a surprise that this made the top 10. Now, like most of Luca's more recent films, it is from an existing IP, but I don't think that's something to complain about. He's managed to turn it into something disturbing yet thrilling. His casting of Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet was beyond perfection, and I loved the cameo from Michael Stuhlbarg. Also, the cinematography was absolutely gorgeous. It's definitely a lot to digest, but it completely lives up to the expectations. Before I start on Nightmare Alley, just know that I'm talking about the Vision in Darkness and Light edition, which is in black and white, and if you haven't already seen this, I strongly recommend watching this edition first. Now, after seeing this in its true form, I can't imagine ever watching it in colour. The blacks were just so deep, the whites were bright as ever, and it felt like a noir from the 40s with a modern A-list cast. If the Academy members saw this in black and white, it would be a really tough call this year, because after reading up on others' experiences, it completely changes the feel of the film. Story-wise, it's not really what you'd expect from Del Toro. There are no VFX monsters, and he went true to the original, but I expect to see several in his next film. The mystery aspect leaves you guessing throughout, although you kind of know where it's going to end up. As for the performances, perfect. I really can't imagine Leonardo DiCaprio in the role, but hopefully he is in a later Del Toro film. Bradley Cooper absolutely knocks it out of the park with another incredible performance. Cate Blanchett is stunning as always, Rooney Mara is the perfect balance to Cooper, and the rest of the ensemble cast just killed it. I wasn't expecting to love this film as much as I did, but I've recommended it to everyone this year. There was just something about The Worst Person in the World that intrigued me from the first poster. I don't know if it was the name, Julie Running, but it was something, and that something led me to my favourite romance drama of the year. I couldn't get enough of this film though. The story is beautiful in so many ways, it brings you through every emotion, the performances are raw and remind you of how incredible film can be, and it's never boring, which some people are afraid of when it comes to this genre. I unfortunately didn't watch as many foreign language films as I would have liked to this year, but even if I did, this would have stayed my favourite. It's well known on this channel that Richard Linklater is my favourite director of all time, and if we look past his live action, stories through time films that are all incredible, we have his animations, which are equally as beautiful. Now, this film seems to have unfortunately flown under the radar for a lot of people, which is a massive shame. It's heartwarming, engaging, and makes you feel nostalgic, which, at least for me, is nostalgia for a time I've never experienced, but it's still a nice feeling. The animation style feels like a more polished version of Waking Life, but that's a given after 20 years. I'm really happy to see that he stuck to that style though, as again, it's perfect. Getting into the top 5, we have Glass Onion, and this would be higher if it weren't for the fact that the next 4 films were utterly breathtaking. Now, I've seen the original Knives Out 8 times, which may sound excessive, and I assure you it's not, but it meant I was hesitant going into this. In my head, nothing can top the original Benoit Blanc story, and whilst this didn't, it's extremely close. I knew I was going into a murder mystery, but the number of twists and turns was incredible, and whilst others have said it was a bit slow to start, I wouldn't have had it any other way. As for the cast, I think it's a given that with any future Benoit Blanc mystery, we're going to have an all-star one. Edward Norton is one of my favourite actors of all time, so I was excited to see his performance. Craig is obviously exceptional, and everyone else just fits their characters so well. Maybe this didn't hit the mark for everyone, but it did for me. After only seeing amazing things about Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was pretty scared going into it, but I didn't try to keep my expectations too high just in case it didn't live up to them. It was easily one of the best films of the year though. The story is phenomenal and not as hard to follow as you'd expect from a multiverse story to be. The casting is perfection, and I can't express how happy I am to see Ke Huy Quan return to acting. I don't know why, but I'm surprised at how good the VFX were. I guess it's down to the fact that I've seen much worse in Marvel, which have budgets 10 times this. I'm still yet to watch this again as I've been trying to stay away from rewatches this year, but after making this video, I know I will be very, very soon. I knew going into a film directed by Robert Eggers it was going to be pretty realistic with aspects of fantasy, but I wasn't expecting it in this regard. There's sort of a perfect balance between authenticity and myth. It doesn't go over the top, which I was scared of it doing, but it doesn't shy away from the fact that this isn't supposed to be just a raw telling of what the Viking era was like. As for the cinematography though, I hope Eggers never parts with Jarin Blaschke. His work on this is easily some of the best I have ever seen in this kind of fantasy drama, and whilst his work on The Lighthouse was incredible, this just goes to show what he can do with a much larger budget. The score, production design and costumes were all brilliant as well, and the film actually felt really authentic, but I don't know what else I expected from Eggers. Now, I'm not stupid. Top Gun Maverick is a propaganda film through and through. The problem is, it works. That's how good a film I found this to be. I can't fit in an FA-18, I'm not American, and the Navy is something that never interested me. Yet, coming out of this, I was looking for the sign-up sheet. In all seriousness though, for a sequel 36 years later, it's incredible. And as a standalone film, which it easily could be, it's even better. I mean, half of that is the returning cast, but just the fact that the action was real. I know Tom Cruise is known for doing his own stunts, and whilst he wasn't able to in this as much, it still just blew me away that he was actually in that plane. Overall, it's easily one of the best films of the year. I mean, I can't think of something I had more fun in and that I could just relax and enjoy. And last but definitely not least, we have The Batman. I absolutely adored this film. Now, it feels quite like a gritty detective thriller, and in comparison to other Batman films, it couldn't be more welcome, but I think that's also the reason why it's done so well. It isn't necessarily a superhero film, it just stars one. As for the story, it's engaging from the start, and unlike other popular Batman films from the past 20 years, we are focusing on a new villain, and since it's Dano in the role, who we already know is incredible, it was going to be hard to dislike this premise. Onto the star of the show though, Robert Pattinson, who still after 9 months is my favourite portrayal of the Dark Knight to date. Sorry Christian, but he just embodied both Wayne and Batman in a way that I've never seen before. Kravitz is also an incredible addition, and as for the rest of the casting, Wright, Farrell, it couldn't have been more perfect. Of course though, I have to talk about the cinematography, and to no surprise, I loved it. For a film set almost completely at night, it was going to be dark, and whilst it's a trend to hate on dark cinematography at the moment, even though it's always been around, Fraser did an incredible job at creating a unique take on a popular technique. The lighting is beautiful, the framing is strong, and the movement keeps us in the story at all times. I really can't wait to see where he goes next. I also have a video on the Batman cinematography that I will link in the top right corner and description below. Now, there were also a couple of older films that I only got around to watching this year that I wanted to include: Once Upon a Time in America, Tape, Doubt, Dear Zachary, and Mysterious Skin. All of these films have stayed in my mind from the moment I watched them, and I can't believe I waited this long to get around to them, so I hope me mentioning them brings them up on your watch list. But that's it for this year. A lot has happened in the past couple of months, leading to me being a lot busier than I was first expecting, which is why I've had to cut down from 2 videos a week to 1 and sometimes none, but as I get more settled, I plan to get more in the swing of this, because I never want to stop. In the next month or so, I'll make a video talking about my future plans for this channel, but I want to get a couple of cinematography related videos out first, namely Glass Onion. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. You know what to do if you did. If you have a recommendation for an analysis, leave it down below. Thanks so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.